Hello and welcome to Center Ice Cardcast, your one-stop podcast shop for all things hockey cards. My name is Eric Andrews, also known in the hobby as Hammerhawks, and I'm joined by my co-host and fellow hobbyist Aaron Goldstein, better known as Crease Collector. So to start things off for the episode, Aaron, I know that you recently got a one-of-a-kind mail day recently from yours truly, actually. So do you want to share a little bit about that one-of-a-kind mail day?
I mean, you're holding nothing back with that subtle hint to the mail day. Yes, I did recently receive a one of a kind mail day. Huge thanks to yourself for sending that my way. So what happened was a couple weeks ago, yourself and a couple other collectors came in really big, just assisting me all the way through with acquiring my 61st, I want to say, one of one for my Emerald collection, which is the 2013-14 one of a kind patch from In the Game. And for those who don't know, that was a really special set that they did back then. They've since continued it. Dr. Price has with President's Choice, but in the past they did it for about 2 years. And it was a set where they really had a truly one of a kind, patch on the card. And it was really, really cool. And yeah, I mean, this card is really something. For those watching on YouTube, I'm sure we'll have a photo up right now. And for those who have been following my page, I'm sure you've seen it. But it features a pretty big patch from the crest of the Buffalo Sabres 40th anniversary jersey. So that is a patch that I haven't seen used too much on cards. And for my collection, I have maybe one or two pieces of that jersey from that area. So like to get a big patch from that crest is just really, really cool. And it's something that will definitely not be replicated in my collection again. So just a huge patch card for the collection. And huge thanks for yourself, Eric, for, allowing, the seller to ship it to you, to ship it to me. And that was really huge too. And throwing a bid his way as well was key also. So, and a bunch of people had reached out to me to make sure that I had seen the item for sale. And it's a good thing I did because I actually couldn't see because I'm from Canada, and so the guy didn't ship to my area. And it was just nice that people found me and alerted me about this card because otherwise I just flat out would have missed it. So it's nice to see other collectors come through and just a big piece for the collection for sure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's where it belongs, that's for sure. But yeah, I mean, just to clarify for people, it was listed by a seller that did not ship to Canada, which if you're selling a hockey card, that's a pretty stupid thing to do, first of all. But yeah, like Aaron said, obviously it was great that people were able to let him know about it, and then we worked it out so that I theoretically bought it. Aaron obviously paid me for it, but I ended up winning it on eBay and then ended up sending it up to Aaron to its rightful home. So yeah, obviously just a spectacular card in person and even just pictures too. I mean, the patch itself is beautiful and the whole card just works really nicely together, with the color schemes and the patch and everything. It's just a really nice looking card. So obviously very exciting that you were able to land that card for your collection. And then shifting gears a little bit, I also recently picked up a pretty nice card for my personal collection. Not something that's overly surprising for my collection, but what was surprising about it was the final price of the card. And that being because this is actually a record setting sale for the most expensive Jacob Slavin card ever sold, at least publicly, that I'm aware of. And I'm aware of pretty much every Slavin card that's been sold publicly. So, to the best of my knowledge, this is the most expensive Jacob Slavin card that's ever been sold publicly. Is it, the best Slavin card out there? No. Is it the most valuable Slavin card out there? No, it's not, but it costs the most. So, without further ado, a card that I'm certainly glad to have in my collection despite the cost, that being his 2020-21 OPG Platinum Golden Treasures one of one, which is obviously just a beautiful card in and of itself. And I am certainly glad to have it and certainly look forward to completing the full rainbow. I already have the Emerald Surge and a couple of the other cards, so it shouldn't be too hard to finish off that rainbow at this point. But while I don't know for sure, I'm kind of thinking that the auction was shilled. There were a couple of bidders that just kind of had a little bit too high of a bidding history percentage with that seller. And, like I said, this was the most money that has ever been paid for a Jacob Slavin card, more than I paid for the Cup Black Rookie Auto 1 of 1. So that tells you all you need to know right there. But, in my opinion, this ended up selling for more than twice what it is realistically worth. So yeah, I just, unfortunate that it ended up going for as much as it did, whether that be legitimate or not. I'll pretty much always hold to the fact that it was not, and that it was shilled, but who's really to say for sure? But despite the cost, obviously a beautiful card and kind of one of those like almost like statement type of cards for any player collection. So definitely glad to have it. He does have one other Golden Treasures card from OPG Platinum. He had the retro Golden Treasures a few years ago, but I've never seen that card. So this is the only Golden Treasures of him that has surfaced to my knowledge. And yeah, being able to have it in the collection is obviously amazing, and definitely a card that I have enjoyed looking at, just because if you haven't seen one in person, they really are very, very nice, and pictures and scans don't really do them much justice. So that's my record setting golden mail day.
I mean, it's totally worth it in my opinion. Those cards are actually like I've said it a couple times actually. Those are probably aside from the auto and patch cards and stuff like that, like just straight up 1 of 1 cards. I mean, it's probably my favorite one out there. The Golden Treasures 1 of 1 is just amazing. I think it strongly mimics the tops, I believe, super refractors in baseball. And I know people go absolutely nuts for those cards. Like they're on a different planet, when it comes to value, especially, like from some of the rookie guys in baseball. So to have a hockey equivalent is just unreal. Like as soon as I saw one of those the first time, I was like, oh man, like finally that type of card has come to hockey. Like obviously it's not tops, but it's still like visually very, very similar. And it's one of those ones where you go, whoa, like that's something. Maybe it's a little bit like old school of me to see or even prefer a non-auto or patch 1 of 1. But I think just for a parallel like that, I think it's just one that people kind of gravitate towards. And like I know when I first saw it, I was like, again, just blown away by the fact that they made that, and good on Upper Deck for bringing that. I think like that type of card to hockey. I think it's really underrated as far as 1 of 1s go, and it's just a really awesome card. I'm pretty jealous. Like I wish I collected someone who had that card. It's really something, and yeah, like I feel like it was worth it, and just such a cool card. Like it's kind of like one of those ones. I think all collectors have been there where you have a card incoming and you're like, okay, cool, and then you get it like in person, and it's just like, okay, like this was definitely worth it. Like awesome stuff. Just so cool. So kudos to you on that one. Just amazing.
Thanks. Yeah, obviously, like I said, excited to have it in my collection for sure. It's actually not my first Golden Treasures that I have. Ryan Dzingel had a retro Golden Treasures a few years back as well. Actually, I guess it would have been 1920. So not this platinum, but the one before that. And I was able to find that card actually on Hobby Insider, no less.
Did
And
we talk about that one on the pod? I'm not sure we did. We probably did, but I can't recall it.
probably, I'm not
Probably did.
not
Probably
sure,
did.
probably did, but kind of one thing doesn't really show on a scan or a picture too well, but it seems like this year they might have like lightened them up a little bit and also added like a little hint of like rainbow to them, because I know that the Zingle is kind of more of like a darker gold, whereas this one is, kind of a little bit lighter of a gold. So I like that change. It just kind of makes the card pop a little bit better. So yeah, definitely very cool. And like I said, definitely looking forward to completing the rainbow, because the platinum rainbows are very extensive. I think it's probably around what, like 15 or 20 cards that are in the full rainbow. So it'll be cool to be able to finish that and throw together a nice little group scan of all of them. So that will be very fun for sure, whenever that day may or may not come.
Hey, best of luck. I mean, those rainbows are super cool to put together, and maybe you can get one of those custom frames where people display a bunch of cards like that, like especially for OPG. I've seen that done a fair bit. So like maybe you can acquire one of those. I think it'd be really cool. But either way, like whichever way you display it, it's gonna look amazing.
Very true. Yep. We'll see what happens, but yeah, that's a good idea for sure. So, shifting gears to the main part of the episode, that being a pretty thorough look at 2021-22 Upper Deck Series 1. Joining us to talk about all things Series 1 is the man who knows the product better than probably anybody else on the entire planet, that being the one and only Billy Celio, product manager at Upper Deck. Billy, thanks so much for joining us as always, and we're excited to talk about Series 1 with you.
Sounds great. Always love being here.
So just to give everybody just a super quick rundown of the product, just for some bare bone context, the product came out on March 2nd, and it does continue with the standard configuration of 8 cards per pack and 24 packs per box, like it pretty much always has. And of course, there are both a lot of familiar content and new content within the product, which we'll get into a little bit later. But of course, the big draw with the product is, of course, the Young Guns rookie cards. So speaking of those Young Guns rookie cards, Billy, one thing that has been discussed a lot about them this year is the design and the decision to have the Young Guns banner running vertically along the side of the card instead of across the bottom, like how it typically is. Not that it never has been on the side vertically, but we're used to kind of seeing it along the bottom. So, with that in mind, what kind of went into the decision to have that vertically along the side of the card? And are you happy with how the Young Gun design turned out in the end?
We'll start off with the fact that a lot of people have said the past few years, the base sets kind of look the same. The Young Guns have kind of looked the same. So when starting off the set, one of the first things that we build actually is the base design. And when we created the base design, it was actually my boss Grant was just like, let's try 2 pictures. We haven't had 2 pictures on a base card in a while, and what people don't understand is images do cost a lot of money to use. So we wanted to make the base design a little more desirable, a little more attractive, and we added a picture, and not a recropped picture, but a whole new picture on the card. So we came up with what I thought was a really cool base design. A lot of people, some people like it, and some people are like, well, we're not getting as big of an image. And I understand, but you're getting a second image. And another thing that you have to kind of keep in mind when you're creating these cards is there's a lot of different parallels. So you need space for all the different callouts. There's also a clear cut version of these cards. So you need a spot that will be able to, on the back of the card, have all the legal lines and the logos and the player name and everything. And you don't want that part showing through some of the important aspects of the card. So usually we leave that open for the call outs on the front, so it's not disrupting the image of the player. So once the base card's designed, and we really liked what our designers did with the base set design this year, it's something different. He then moves on to the Young Guns. And what we try to do is create what we call a sibling of the base design with the Young Guns. We don't want it to look exactly like the base card, but we want it to be kind of in relation with the base card. And so that was kind of where we went with it. And, as I said, some people really like it and some people aren't used to, this isn't like you said, this isn't the first time that, the Young Guns have been designed similar to what we have here. But, we've been doing kind of the same thing for the past, 4, 5, 6 years, and decided to change it up because we heard feedback that it was looking the same and year after year. So we changed it, and then all of a sudden people are like, wait, we want it back how it was, So you can't please everybody. But what I will say is I think the base design came out really well, and I like the Young Gun design. And I'm not just saying that because I built the set. I think they did a good job with it. Is it what people are used to in the past 5 or 6 years? No, but that doesn't mean it's not a good design. It's just what they're not used to.
I think that's really fair. I think people sometimes forget, some of the most notable Young Guns have, a similar design, like up the side, and it's very, very desirable over the years. And like I really enjoyed the Young Gun design this year. And as far as the base cards go, as soon as I first saw them, I almost thought that it was an insert card. Like it just had that certain level of quality to them, and I really enjoy them as well. So yeah, just big ups to the design team there and everyone involved in those decisions. I like them. I don't understand the hate, But I understand, like Billy just said, there's going to be some hate whether you do this or whether you do that. So it's just one of those things, unfortunately. But another thing about the young guns is that it's also debated to death, is the checklist every series. And so we just wanted to know, just for our listeners, what went into the specific group of players on this checklist, and why were they included as opposed to the players who maybe debuted at the beginning of this season?
So this year, kind of like last year, we are kind of with the production time of recent products being extended because of resources, because of vendors, because of time slots, because of all that sort of stuff. The Young Gun checklist this last year, had to be made before the season even started, and the season started late also. So, our goal is to, try to get UD1 out at a specific time. We feel it's very important to come out at that time. Obviously, it didn't this year, but we wanted to have this product built and prepared to be distributed and out to the public, around its usual time, which is early November, maybe late October. And so that being said, we needed to come up with that checklist as soon as we could. And so it was decided, and we've said this many times, but just to reiterate, it was decided that Series 1 would consist of holdovers, people from the previous season. And, we were blessed with a few high quality holdovers in this year's checklist, especially with Zegras and Caulfield. We were a little worried about Caulfield for a minute, but he got hot right at the right time. I think, he's averaging over a point a game his last like 11, 12 games. So that's definitely helped out. And Zegras is probably one of the flashiest rookies out there right now. Being a Detroit fan, will I say that he's the best rookie? But he's definitely one of the flashiest and crowd pleasing. That's for sure. So, and also, people are talking about the checklist. Let's be honest. When's the last time that we've had two rookies in the Series 1 that value out over $100 just from pre-orders? So that's also been, and Zegras was much higher than that also. So you got two high quality rookies in there that are definitely valuing out. So I think our series, and then there's a lot of other good holdovers in there. I think the Series 1 checklist is actually quite strong and has a few sleepers in there.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's a very deep holdover crop, like you said. I mean, those big guys, of course. Then you've got Jamie Drysdale, and then we got a couple good goalies in Spencer Knight and Jeremy Swayman, quite a few other good players as well. So yeah, I mean, given that you guys could have, kind of been in a bad spot, only having carryovers if it didn't work out in your favor, but the fact that it was such a strong group is, obviously very exciting for this product for sure. Kind of just touching on the checklist thing and the timing of all of that. Another thing that a lot of collectors have pointed out, just about the veterans in the base set, not being as current as they might, maybe would like, whether that be a player that was traded or signed as a free agent, or even members of the Seattle Kraken, for example. I know to us the answer is fairly obvious, but it seems like a lot of people still don't really understand how lengthy the process is for developing a product. Can you just explain a little bit, kind of how far in advance decisions about a checklist are made for a product like Upper Deck One, especially nowadays?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, the first thing our designers built is the base set design. And there's a reason for that. And that's because we try to get the base set out there as quick as possible. And then we challenge our coordinators to come up with a checklist that obviously you've got 200 players, or actually 198 players because of the checklist cards. But you have 198 players that you have to put in Series 1, and then another 198 players that you have to put in Series 2, and another 198 players that you have to put in Extended. So that being said, we challenge them to try to make sure you select players that don't have the possibilities of being traded, or like are safe from being traded and whatnot. But you still want to add superstars in there. You still want to add player favorites, and then some of those second or third tier guys that maybe don't get cards in a lot of other checklists. So it's a very complicated thing that they have to map this stuff out. It's not just like, oh, I'm going to make a base set, 200 cards, done. They have to map out 3 products worth of players. And then the other thing that you mentioned about the Kraken players, the first year that the Vegas Knights had their team, we were able to get a couple media day photos of like Marc-Andre Fleury and I think someone else, but it was very limited. When we made the checklist for this, yes, Series 1 came out just recently and the Kraken have been playing, whatever. But when we made this checklist, they hadn't even done the draft. There wasn't even any word of who was going to go to Seattle. So we really couldn't do that. Now, are we going to take care of our Kraken fans? Yes, we are. In Series 2, obviously, there's going to, in extended, there's going to be Kraken players in there. And there's actually an insert in the extended series that is dedicated to every player that was on the roster game 1 for the Kraken. So everyone that was on the bench and on the roster, there's a inaugural Kraken insert where it's, every one of those players. Now, if they were on injured reserve, they're not going to have a card. It was everyone in that inaugural game on the team. So Kraken are going to get some love. Unfortunately, you have to wait for it. Just like, shoot, we're sitting here waiting for a Kraken mascot, and that still hasn't happened. Like, we're taking care of you guys, but it's just going to take a little time.
For sure. Yeah, that makes sense. And that's really cool to hear about that insert. I'm sure that'll be a very popular one for sure. Shifting gears to, a little bit more about what is within the product and, some of the inserts and stuff. Obviously, there is a lot of exciting new content, especially when it comes to those inserts. One that really stuck out to me is the electromagnetic cards. What can you tell us about the inspiration for those cards and how those came to be?
The inspiration, I like to look at collectibles. I like to look at different things when I come up with inserts. And there was a Clint Eastwood poster that kind of had like a character and then some different like images and pictures and stuff. And I'm like, this is kind of cool. And then it's just like, what if it's kind of like a rainbow? And then you go sit there and you try to find words and insert names and stuff like that kind of coincide with the rainbow. Because here's another thing, trying to find insert names nowadays is nearly impossible because everybody's using it and trademarking it. So trying to find new ones is tough. But it kind of was the two things combined, looking for stuff dealing with rainbows and looking for inspiration with that Clint Eastwood poster came the electromagnetic cards. And what's funny is I think they came out great. They're gorgeous. And having seen them after the fact, like, man, these could have been really even cooler if maybe we did it with white FX, or what if we did it on that sort of thing. So, do we bring this insert back in a different way? I don't know. But as I said, for just a regular insert in the pack of cards, I think they're gorgeous. And I'm glad that people like them.
Those are definitely really, really neat. And speaking of bringing inserts back, another insert that is back once again are the portraits cards. You guys really changed it up once again with more like a simplistic design with a gold kind of hue overlaying, the black and white photo. What went into the decision to go another different route for those cards as well? Because I know they've been, under different changes over the years.
I was looking for more of like a Western feel to the cards. So that's kind of where the sepia black and white kind of came from. I just kind of wanted like an old West. We probably could have done a little better job with selecting images for that to give it that feel. But I wanted the card to kind of feel that way because there's different types of portraits, just like I've been stressing the last couple of years. We did the almost, we call it in the house, we call it like the Step Brothers version of the portraits where it's like the head in the head.
Yep,
and then, we did. And then there's the Saved by the Bell portraits. And I went on a family vacation and we did one of those Wild West where we dressed up in the things and we paid the money and they took like an old version of us. So that was kind of like the inspiration of that type of portraits. And I've already seen next. Yeah, here's a spoiler: portraits are back next year. I've already seen the design and they look sick. But for this year's, it was the kind of like a Wild West type of portrait. I want to do something different each year with that insert if we continue to do it. When I run out of ideas, then we'll get rid of it. But this year, the theme was Wild West.
Very cool. Yeah. Honestly, I wouldn't have even thought of that. So hearing that, is really cool to help understand them further. Switching gears to another insert that really dazzles you is, of course, the Dazzlers insert set. And those made a pretty strong debut last year. People, really enjoyed those. And in my opinion, they seem to be even better this year. What can you tell us about what went into the design for those Dazzler cards this year?
There's people that just like shiny. Just there's people that like moving parts and shininess to cards, and that's where the Dazzlers first came up. We used to have like the seeing stars and the shooting stars, and they were just kind of they were cool, and we would even like make them rare, and they just weren't getting any kind of reception. And there's just people that when they open up a pack of cards, sometimes they just want to see something that looks right back at you, I guess is the best way of saying it. And that's kind of what the Dazzlers do. And we get some inspiration from just the name itself. You wanted to dazzle, so that's kind of where we went. And as you said, they were quite popular, so we wanted to bring them back, and we wanted to keep them really shiny and really bright. And when you get one of those cards, you got one of those cards. That's kind of the feel that we wanted. There's some insert cards that are pretty cool insert cards of great players, but we wanted this one to just kind of, when you got one in a pack, you knew you got it.
Very nice. Yeah, like they've always been one of my favorites, since last year, and I just really wanted them to return. And I'm definitely glad that they did. I mean, just the parallels as well look amazing, and they're just one of those ones that they definitely do dazzle people. And when you're opening a pack and you hit a Dazzlers, like you hit one. Like you see it, and before you see the card, it's just there. You just know it. It's one of those ones that just again just jumps right at you. So very well done on those once again. And then a new one we're going to talk about. I know you were really excited for these ones. I think you know the one I'm going to talk about is the Hundo P set. So if you can just share a little bit about those, what inspired you to create those, and just a little bit about the execution.
Hockey has some of the best lingual there is. Like just some of the because you've got, and maybe it's because I'm from the U.S. and I don't get to hear people from Canada talk as much as people from Canada get to hear people from Canada. And I would imagine that people from Canada say the same thing about people from the United States. But sometimes you just you run into some of those phrases and stuff that it just kind of hits you in the head. And I was listening to I listened to some interviews, and they sometimes they interview the cast of Letterkenny. I'm a big fan of the show, and they were joking about some of the lingo that they use on that show. And one of the things that they mentioned was Hundo P, and which basically stands for 100%. Like, hey, give 100%, when they're out there. And so I'm just like, that'd be a kind of a fun insert to do. Just kind of, I wanted the card to kind of look like one of those old 90s inserts with all the repetitive like percentage stuff in the background. And just I've heard some people even talking like, well, what if you what if you made the insert 0p and it was just like a player just sitting on the bench not doing anything, or like or 50% p, or just like all the different they called it the variations of the Hundo p that you could
The
make for the
variations of
insert.
effort.
Yes.
That'd be
But
amazing.
yeah, I thought that was absolutely hysterical. It made me laugh. But yeah, it comes from lingual from I heard it from Letterkenny, but obviously they heard it from other people too, and just kind of took it and ran with it.
Yeah, I mean, like Hundo P up in Canada. Speaking of Letterkenny, like that pretty much describes every small town in Canada. So I think with Hundo P, it's one of those ones where it's like I heard the name and I was like, could it be? No, it's probably for something else or something like that. So it's one of those ones where the name definitely jumps out at you. We talked about the cards jumping out at you, and now we're talking about the name jump out at you. So it's a really memorable set. So maybe a couple cast members could sign a Hondo P insert for you, and I think it'd be really cool. So it's like definitely a very neat insert for sure.
Yeah.
So shifting gears to one thing that everybody really enjoys about any good Upper Deck product, especially Series 1, that being, of course, the Easter eggs that are planted throughout the product. Obviously we know that you can't spill all of the beans, but we wanted to ask about a few of those Easter eggs that, have been pretty prominently discussed so far in the hobby. Some of those being the black canvas parallels, the 25th anniversary jersey and patch cards, and the base autograph cards. So if anything, what can you tell us about the inspiration for those specific cards, and kind of what drove you to include those cards within the product?
So when we made the black canvas cards, we wanted to look and see, what the market is doing. And one of the things that people are doing with cards nowadays is they're, getting cards graded and getting them, slabbed and graded and whatnot. And so we're spending a lot of money on jersey cards in the set. Because, if you get a certain number of jersey cards per box, per case, blah, 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 it can add up. And we've seen too often that those jersey cards just aren't valuing out for the consumer from the standpoint of, you're seeing them in dollar bins all the time. And the amount of money it takes to make one of those cards, it is exceeding the amount that the cards are going for. So people are like, oh, you're taking away the hits. We don't feel like we're taking away the hits. We feel like we're adding more value with the black parallels as opposed to the jersey cards, because what people are going to do is they're going to take those black parallels of the canvas cards, which usually grade fairly well, the canvas cards, and give them a bigger chase than the jersey cards. And I understand, I when I go to the expo, I see kids' eyes light up when they see a jersey card and they get excited about it. And hopefully that'll still happen and they'll still get the jersey, they'll still get a box with jersey cards here and there. But it's just, we wanted to give the consumer something that we feel will value out a little bit higher. A black canvas Zegers Young Gun is probably going to value out higher than a Dylan Larkin jersey card. I mean, not in my books. I'm a Larkin fan. No, but it's probably going to value out more. So, that's kind of the process behind the black canvas cards. Now, speaking of, so since we took away jersey cards, we got to give you something. And I do a lot of research when I build a product, and one of the things I noticed is it was the 25th anniversary of our first jersey card, and so I'm like, this would be a great opportunity to kind of bring back that design, and I know people like it, but we wanted to bring it back in a manner that those cards are going to be valuable when they get them. We didn't want to print however like a large amount per player, so we really limited the amount of those cards that are out for hobby boxes and put a lot of the best. Like, I wanted to put the best players that you can put in there and not just filler jersey cards. So, we put top guys and we made them really rare. And what's funny is I can't believe, like, it was out on the original solicitation. I messed up and forgot to put unannounced on our solicitation to my brand manager, and it went out at the patch version of it, because I had the jersey version put as unannounced, but I forgot to put that under the patch parallel. And so it went out and people like, oh, this sounds cool. But then when we put out the checklist, I'm like, take this off. And so they are still kind of Easter eggs. They didn't know about the jersey. They only knew about the patch if they remembered what solicitations that went out the shop said. But I thought that was really cool. Someone asked me, are you going to make them look, why aren't they the really, because the originals were like 40-point cards. They were really thin. I'm like, we got to give them a little bit of a cover to the jersey. But yeah, that was fun. And then, Signature Sensations, it's one of those inserts that, they are rare, or they were rare when we made them. Usually they fell one per case or even harder. And but they don't value out very well. So, here's another part of the making the base set. I challenge my coordinator to then, okay, pick a certain number of players and let's make an autograph version of the base set cards, which really isn't out there. And I'm like, let's call them, so they're called snow spray autos, because if you look at the bottom where the autograph goes, it looks kind of like a snow spray that they do to those poor goalies that are trying to save the puck. Some of those guys give them a little whitewash. And so they're the snow spray auto parallels, and they were unannounced this year. And people don't buy Series 1 for autographs. They buy them for the young guns. They buy them for rare Easter eggs and inserts and stuff like that. So, but we still wanted to give you a chance to get an autograph, and to get that chance to make it worth to value out to, because of its scarcity.
Hey, that's really cool. Like I didn't know that name, and so the snow spray autos.
Oh, no one knows it. So
until they hear this, that's really cool.
Yes, yeah.
I love the name. I love the parallels. It really goes nice with that base design that we just talked about. And as far as those retro jerseys, very cool as well. I don't know if you can talk about too much on this question, but it's something that happens about every year. But the random hot boxes and cases, if you can tell us anything about those, that would be great.
So whether there's random hot boxes or not, I know there's been instances that I've heard about where there's been an obscene amount of Young Guns in there. And I wish I could sit there and say that was on purpose. Our vendors are doing the best they can and are very busy, and sometimes things happen. And what I'm guessing is that these cards come in like big sleeves and stuff like that, and I'm guessing the wrong sleeve was put in the wrong slot. And there's a small number, very, very. I mean, I've only heard of like a couple cases that are a ridiculous amount, and I just have a feeling that a sleeve was put in the wrong feeder, and it produced some boxes that some consumers were extremely happy about. So I've heard the hot box thing said. It's not really a hot box. It's really just something a vendor kind of doing something and then producing something that comes out like a hot box.
That's okay. That's cool. Understood.
And like you said, certainly very fortunate for those lucky enough to have found one of those for sure.
Yeah, it's like when like you get we'll say a case hit. Like I've gotten boxes of cards of products where like two things are stuck together, and you're like, wait, I got two amazing cards. Like it happens sometimes.
For sure. Yeah. This next question has very little to do with Upper Deck Series 1 itself, but is still somewhat related. I know we were messaging earlier today about this, getting a good laugh out of it, but there's been some chatter online about Series 2 being canceled due to the announcement of Extended Series. So, what would you like to say to those collectors, within reason, of course, about that theory?
So, man, they couldn't be more spot on. We've replaced Extended, we're using Extended to replace SPA, Premier, Ultimate, Series 2, like all that stuff. It's just everything. It's just Extended now. That's me being very sarcastic. No, so we build products like I mentioned, Series 1. It's supposed to come out at a certain time, which means solicitation has to come out at a certain time. And so, it's the time for extended solicitation came up, and that's we still hope that we can get these products out on time, and our vendors are doing everything they can, and we're going down different avenues to try to get cards printed. We're doing everything that we can to get these cards on time, and we hope that stuff's going to get out on time. So you got Series 2, it's still coming out, and you got Extended Series. So because we've already solicited Series 2, so but we need to kind of get an idea from our distributors, what they're going to be selling to the consumers. So that's where you see it.
That's totally cool.
And then you were going to ask me I was going to say,
oh, no, it's
the
okay.
next question going to be, and we saw the solicitation of Extended, and it looks awesome this year. Thank you for saying that and asking that question. Yeah, no, we're really excited about Extended too. The one thing that, sometimes you build something and you learn from it. Our idea of Extended was to build kind of like a set that has a lot of rookie content, and we didn't really anticipate that the consumer was going to treat it like a Series 3, even though we stressed repeatedly that it's not a Series 3. But they wanted their Young Guns, they wanted canvas cards, and they wanted more hockey inserts. And so if you've seen the solicitation for it, you'll notice we have 50 Young Guns in there. We put canvas into it, and a lot of the inserts that are in there this year are more geared towards the hockey collector. We brought back the old Black Diamond cards and kind of treated it like it used to with the 1, 2, 3, and 4 stars. And those 4 stars are going to be tough to pull. So, that adds extra content to it. And, people were wondering what we were going to do with the trilogy cards the rookie cards that we weren't able to build this year just due to the pure volume that the vendors were getting and the fact that they had to shut down for a period of time. So we were able to add the trilogy rookie cards into Extended this year. And then, like I said, we kept some of the cool stuff like the holographics and the SPX finite and stuff. And then we added a few more really cool designs. And it's loaded with Easter eggs, but I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited about Series 2 because my boy Lucas Raymond's in it. I can't speak of any other Young Guns because we'll talk about that when this checklist comes out, but it's been solicited that Raymond's in there. So one name, which I'm really excited about because I'll be collecting a lot of it.
That's really cool. It's always like cool to hear about like that perspective, you're building the product and also you're excited to get some of these cards as well. Extend is going to be great also. So that's going to be really fun to see. That's all we have. If there's anything you'd like to say about Series 1, have at it. But that's all we have for you, Billy.
I'm very happy with a lot of the feedback that I've heard about Series 1. It didn't go without a few hiccups here and there, and we understand that. Again, very sorry about the delay. I think the condition of the cards is a lot better than last year, and we've heard a lot of feedback about that. And again, there are a few hiccups here and there, but for the majority of the run, I think people have been pretty happy with it. And yeah, just glad that everybody's enjoying it. And there'll be some new products coming out here soon too that you guys have been waiting for.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time as always. Really appreciate it. And of course, we also appreciate the insight that you provide for us, given that, like we said at the top, this product better than anybody else out there. So, it's always great hearing information about the product straight from the source and, not having to wonder or theorize or whatever it might be, actually getting those answers from the man himself is obviously extremely valuable, not only for us, but for the hobby in general. So as always, we appreciate your time and insight.
No problem, guys. Thanks again for having me.
So I think that will do it for this episode. As always, please be sure to follow us on social media. We can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Sunrise Cardcast, and on Twitter at Sunrise CC. Please also be sure to subscribe to the show on your podcast platform of choice to make sure you never miss a future episode. Until next time on Sunrise Cardcast, keep collecting those hockey cards.